the chat, I think people are quite being engaged what the speaker is saying, and they are just reflecting on the learnings they are taking. I was just, before we close this roundtable, as we are running out of time, because I just didn't want to stop you, because you had all a lot to share. But I wanted to address a question, and it is based on what you were just saying, Anthony. I wanted to address it to Vanya just before she leaves. Exactly in terms of how do we move from these age groups? And I have been dealing myself personally in terms of separating pupils for age, because we have care homes and kindergartens and everything separated. We don't see each other. And how do we actually move forward to this life course perspective, just as Anthony was saying? Vanya, what would be your comments or recommendations for our guests?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in a transitional period, if I can say. I mean, I think as has been commented upon in different ways by different people contributing to this event today. Life is currently not configured in a way that facilitates that encounter between people of different generations. And this goes from the way that institutions are created, the way that we're forced to go with our same age cohort from kindergarten all the way up to higher education, then even in the workforce, which is a natural, I guess it's one of those spaces where naturally this encounter could happen, but still employers are not necessarily facilitating that, which is a shame. But generally the way that life is configured does not allow us to have that interaction. But it's not only the way that life is configured. I would prompt all of you to also look around in terms of how your cities, your communities are built and structured. I mean, just look around, parks that are configured in a way that kind of like push one population, one age group to go to one specific location, another age group to go to another specific location, often based on stereotypes rather than creating, spaces that can bring together different groups. I'm just speaking, for example, in Spain, we still see community houses dedicated to young people or dedicated to older people, not necessarily just a community house for anyone in the community who wants to join, right? So we still have the way that activities are also planned oftentimes target specific age groups rather than opening them up to anyone who wants to join. So we still have to move beyond the way that life is configured nowadays to create those opportunities to see each other and just, naturalize the fact that you can interact with anyone and really benefit from interactions with anyone of a different age. But beyond that, and before we get there, because it will still take some time, right, to configure it a society that allows us to have that occur more organically. One thing that I prompt everyone to do is to look at opportunities available to you in your own environment, because they're there. So you will either have activities in your environment that do not have age limits in terms of who can join. You will have other initiatives like some of the ones that I was mentioning today that are there for you. You can also come up with your own initiatives. And one thought-provoking question that I ask more and more to anyone who's working in this space is, how many friends do you have who are 15 years younger or 15 years older than you? Because if you don't reach 5, at least, which most people don't, you personally also have quite a bit of work still to do. And like I said, there are opportunities there. I'm not saying that, our societies are created in a way that naturally prompt us to do this, but there are things in our hand and really available to us that we can draw on to make that happen. Because one of the frustrating things as well, based on the evidence, is that most of us are open in principle to having friends of other age groups. We just don't translate that into practice. So yeah, so I would prompt everyone to count, to first do that counting exercise, see how many friends you have of different ages, and then, get to work to translate your desire into reality. But yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much, Vanya. I have been counting myself. I will not tell you the numbers, but yeah, I do have to have a work on that. But it's from both age groups, not even younger, not even older than me. So thank you so much. I take everyone today, because it's really self-reflective when you see the numbers and the profiles of your friends. So thank you so much. Anthony, you are raising your hand, so please.
Yes, just one point. Everybody is talking about intergenerational solidarity, but nobody has brought up the idea of an intragenerational solidarity, which means that it's good to reach out between the different sections of the population. It's also good to look around us and see how older persons are actually taking care of other older persons, or younger persons taking care of other younger persons. Because if we don't take care of the people around us, how can we take care of people who are somehow a little bit distant from us? So this idea of intergenerational solidarity, I think, is very important also to be at the basis of the intergenerational solidarity. I mean, Sabine, in her presentation, has mentioned the idea of voters, of older persons being more numerous than younger persons. But in fact, also the actual act of voting, younger persons tend not to vote as much as older persons. And so it's good for younger people to see to their own interest and vote and have their political preference and be activists, if you like, as well as older persons. And also, older persons are members of families. They have their sons, their daughters, they have their grandsons, their granddaughters. So everybody is interested in each other, really. So maybe this intergenerational education process maybe could be more demand-driven, because maybe the action for older persons to go to these adult learning activities maybe is because they're interested in the future of their young people, of the family members, and also maybe the younger persons may be interested in how and when they get older, or may be interested in their grandmother. So it's a question also not just of fairness, which is a legal term, and which also unfortunately may also presume prioritization. I would rather prefer emphasizing solidarity than fairness in this sense.
Thank you, Anthony. And personally, I have been growing with this sense in terms of my family, that intergenerational solidarity were there, and my parents have shown me by day what it was, and I remember being puzzled with that. But one thing that I also have been reflecting is that it is true that I do have a lot of people, and I do have intergenerational connections, but they are within my family. They are not outside in my community. I've been realizing, so I was really proud that I do have intergenerational, but then I realized, yeah, but it is in my circle, not beyond my circle. So it's also something that everyone should reflect on, that going beyond your inner parts or your personal relationships directly. Okay, I would like to also, moving on, and I'll also, probably based on what we are discussing, and I would like to address Judith, because I also have been learning this part of putting different generations together or creating bonds between the generations. So like moving from being multi-generational to being intergenerational, which are quite different. And also in terms of the housing that Vanya was presenting, I have seen a lot of examples of housing, but they are just multi-generational. They are buildings, they are houses, that they are not exactly intergenerational, like creating the bonds. So Judith, maybe like some key takeaways. So a lot of participants have been noticing your model. What would be the key aspects that they should have to pay attention?
I think, I mean, for me, there are always challenges, but they are always easy. The challenges are there, but they can be overcome. Do not be put off. Do not be anxious that you can't do it, because actually it's fantastic. I was coming back to what you were saying, Anthony. One of the comments that I have moved me very much was when one of the residents actually at the care home, who, as part of our intergenerational program, turned and was really concerned, not for the children, but for another participant. And they have within that community, a community that didn't choose to live together, but because of various physical or cognitive needs, have had to find themselves living with people that they may never have had anything in common with, would not have chosen to have actually had a relationship with, how they actually look out for each other. That's the intergenerational. And it's been very interesting to see those different things. But one thing that I would say is, it's all very well starting something, but you won't have to have it sustainable. So one of the things we've introduced is we have our graduates reunion, and those children who have left our setting because they leave at 5 years old, we invite them and their families back regularly to keep the relationships and to build new ones, because being a care home for people coming so close to the end of life, we do have a lot of people who are, who die, who are no longer with the children, but there are new people coming in for the graduates to create new friendships and new relationships. And the parents are also getting very involved because they're the ones that bring them. So there is so much potential here. Another thing, maybe a plug for the care home I'm at, which has been so open and so welcoming and allowed us to come and use their space in such a cooperative way, is that they are actually now looking at transforming some of their rooms into student accommodation so that they will have shared housing for yet another generation to come and create a whole community. There are one of the co-locating nurseries is in something called a care village, rather than saying that it's a care home. It's a village where people who need childcare and older care live together in a more of like an urban environment.
Thank you, Judith, so much for this response. I would like also to comment, because Anthony, you had already jumped into that, but I will also ask both of you, and just not to go without time. You mentioned before, I noticed that you put a question to Maria before on the chat in terms of what were the motivations of the participants to join the intergenerational activities that we had in Pages project, but also before, after that, I think it was Judith that mentioned also the sense of ownership of people participating in this intergenerational intervention. So I think there are just the two key takeaways from this, but also what I wanted to ask for you, it's in terms of a reflective question, also maybe a thought-provoking comment from all our audience. What can we do, well, besides counting our friends from different ages, what can we do to move forward on the age equality that we want for Europe?
Is that addressed to me? Yeah.
Yes.
So if adult learning, as I said, is demand driven, the thing is, how are we going to create that demand? It's not simply a question of offering course or offering a program or offering a project, but in what way are we going to make it necessary for people to actually to access that process? And so I think we should also go not just into education, but we should go, I think, into the media and into marketing, because there are so much adverse, actually, marketing, ageist marketing. Also in how shall I say, from point of view of goodwill, of protection, let's say, or offering a good service. And so how are we going to make a paradigm shift in the narrative, even that which is benevolent, if you like, and how are we going to make it a need for people to actually interact with other generations? And so this is a challenge, I think, which goes beyond legislation, because legislation could be very well-meaning, but as it has already been said by Fanny, I think it has to be also implemented. And if you like, I can quote an example of the curatorship law in Malta, which insists that the will and autonomy of the person guarded, the guardianship law, should be taken in full consideration. But then, how are we going to do it if the person who is under guardianship is so vulnerable and has no voice? How are we going to implement this piece of beautiful law that says that the will and the autonomy of the person guarded is to be safeguarded? So it's a question of a lot of marketing, if you like, and not just simply of inviting people in, but having us going out.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I think I will close up with this also, because I really think that that's one of the things that we have used, of course, that we had invited people. So that's not the case that people came to us to say, oh, I want to be part in an intergenerational intervention because I think it will be very good for me. So it's not something that they understood as a need for themselves. So I really think that's a very important takeaway from today.